for me as a chef, there's so much nostalgia in a dish. And I think a lot of dishes are starting to be lost, at least in my own culture. I know that there's things that people my age don't know how to make, but my grandma knows how. But those recipes don't get passed down, or it's written on a random piece of paper and there's no measurements.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Eliza Barbanel. Melissa King is a Top Chef icon, and she's also much more. The champion-turned-judge is also the host of Tasting Wild, a far-out outdoors cooking show, who still finds time to be in the kitchen with pop-ups across the country. It's so fun to have her on the show to talk about cooking with her old Top Chef cohort, plus career-defining gigs like appearing on Sesame Street and cooking for the Met Gala. Melissa King, this is Taste. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you're visiting New York. I have to know, do you have any fun food plans while you're in the city?
I've been here for about a week, so I've been to a few places. I went to Double Chicken, went to Paros, which is a friend of mine from Top Chef, George Pagonis. He just opened that in Tribeca. And I've also been here for a pop-up dinner series with Chase Sapphire. It's the Seaport Food Lab over at the Tin Building. And so I've been here for about 3 days cooking away.
What are the highlights from the menu that you're doing there?
It's really a Chinese and Italian mashup dinner. And what we did was we prepared a Chinese and Italian inspired menu. I made scallops with prosciutto XO. I partnered with two other chefs. Chefs Mei Lin from Top Chef as well, and Sylvia Barbin, also from Top Chef. So each of us kind of broke down and took a different course. Mei Lin made braised Wagyu beef cheeks with a Cantonese curry on top of braised daikon and a side of polenta with a ginger scallion sauce. Sylvia made a beautiful butternut squash cappelletti that had a scallion oil and Szechuan pepper walnuts and a little Parmesan fonduta.
I love all of these dishes. Did you guys put your heads together and talk about how they would all go together? Or was it just kind of like you're bringing your best and you're going to see how it goes?
It was a little bit of both. I think, when I was thinking about who I wanted to do the dinner with, these are friends of mine that I've cooked with before. We've obviously competed against each other as well. And I wanted us to each kind of showcase a little bit of our stories and who we are as people and where we come from. And so being a Chinese American, it was really important to me to kind of, put myself on that plate. And so it became a collaborative effort once we started kind of digging into the details of each other's dishes and what we each wanted to prepare. So we kind of worked together to add different garnishes and find ways to kind of elevate the dish.
Definitely. And when you're cooking with your Top Chef folks, do you feel competitive with them? I have to ask.
I mean, what's interesting is people always think, we're so competitive against each other. But really, I think when you're competing on the show, you're just competing against yourself, to be honest. So yeah, in these settings where we're doing, these pop-up dinners together, it's all just fun. And we're having a good time just kind of creating and really finding inspiration through each other and the foods that we are deciding to present together.
Definitely. And I think that's very classic to say that you're competing against yourself, but it's true. And also when you have people that you're cooking with that are bringing their A game, I would imagine that it would also inspire you to kind of dig a little deeper and show up for them as well.
Absolutely. And at least I feel really proud of what we've created together at the Seaport Food Lab. We really came up with some beautiful dishes that I think were creative and inspiring and dishes that I would, if I had a restaurant tomorrow, I would put that on the menu.
Yeah, and I would be there to eat all three of those back to back. So we're talking about competition. I have to bring up the fact that you hold more challenge wins than anybody else on Top Chef. Do you think your family is surprised to know that? Or do they like, yeah, Melissa is going to come out on top?
I mean, I hope they're surprised. I think they're just really proud, especially the second time around watching. I'm proud of myself for just being able to get through it all because it is an extremely stressful competition to be in. But I think I crushed it.
Yeah, you definitely did. Do you have any tips for handling the stress and the pressure in the moment, or you just kind of power through?
Honestly, you are throughout the competition, you're so sleep deprived, you're exhausted. For me, I was trying to take it a day at a time. I was meditating throughout any breaks that we had and just sort of trying to decompress from it all. But I think slowing down was something I had to keep reminding myself and to stay focused.
Can you talk more about slowing down?
At least for me in my daily life, I try to, even I'm so busy throughout my work life, but I try to take moments to escape and be out in nature, or go for a walk, even if it's, 10 minutes, try to just do something for yourself to slow your mind down. And I find that to be quite important, even whether I'm competing on Top Chef or any situation, it's really good to just take time for yourself.
Yeah, I was speaking with Clancy Miller this morning, who has a new book for the culture out, and she said the exact same thing as her advice was to actually live life and be in the moment. And it sounds obvious, but I think it's a reminder that we all could use in many ways,
Yeah, I think so many, particularly chefs, we're so head down, focused on the food. We dedicate our lives to what we do, and we have to remember there is life outside of a restaurant or outside of your passion. There are other passions out there, and so for me, it's not always just food. It's film, music, fashion, all these other categories that I can tap into to allow my creativity to expand.
Definitely. Maybe not on TV, but when you're cooking at home, do you listen to music?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I'm always listening to music. I'm a big Spotify user and Spotify fan, and I have a couple playlists that people can follow. But
okay, not to put you on blast, but what was your most listened to Spotify artist last year?
Oh,
do you remember?
Positive, it's Drama, and I feel like anyone that knows me knows that I'm obsessed with this band called Drama.
What's the vibe?
It's crying in the club music. If I'm gonna label it as anything, it's crying in the club. Emotional. The lyrics can be kind of I guess they label themselves as happy, sad music.
And would you?
But I love it.
that?
I thrive on emotional music, and even if I'm not sad, I don't know. I love being in my feelings.
Yeah, and that's cooking music for you too.
It is. Well, I guess when I'm in the kitchen, it's a little underground hip hop or old school hip hop. Sometimes all of a sudden it becomes Madonna and Whitney Houston. So I have a bit of range.
I love all of those. I love that together. I think for me, when I'm cooking, sometimes I'll just do one album so that I have a sense of pace and flow. And
Absolutely.
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is kind of always one of those albums.
Good. So good. Classic.
Okay, so you have good music you're listening to. I'm curious, when you are going to compete, do you do anything to prep? Do you do practice challenges?
Well, when you compete, you have no idea what they're going to throw at you on the show. So it could really be anything. So I remember when I was, prepping before I went on to my All-Star season, or no, actually it was my first season 12. I had no idea what the show was going to be like. And I was on YouTube Googling things like how to butcher an alligator or how to butcher a turtle, things that I just thought they would throw at us, but they obviously never did. So I prepared in all the wrong ways my first season. When I went back to compete on All Stars, I did, test out different recipes or just things that I made sure I showed up with a plant-based dish or I had a gluten-free dish in the back of my head, because you just, again, never know what they're going to throw at you in a 30-minute quickfire.
Yeah, that sounds like maybe a better approach than watching how to butcher alligator videos. Although now I kind of want to go look those up after
this. Oh, it's wild.
Do you think you could do it?
I'm sure. I mean, I've done all the research.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
The knives are in the bag. I have one under the desk right now.
Really?
Yeah, sorry. So between the two seasons, do you have any dishes that stand out as if you were going to have a restaurant, this is what you would put on the menu?
Yeah, certainly the scallop with prosciutto XO dish that I just did at the Tin Building with the Seaport Food Lab. That one was a dish that is so special to me. We were in Italy for the finale, and we were at a prosciutto factory, and we had to come up with a dish using prosciutto. And for some reason, I just really wanted to make an XO sauce, and I was thinking about these flavors that I grew up with. I'm Cantonese American. My family's from Hong Kong. XO sauce is such a classic condiment, but it's oftentimes made with dried scallops, and it has a little bit of cured ham or cured meat. And so I decided to reverse that, and I made, the bulk of the sauce with prosciutto and served it on top of a seared scallop. But it was also because I couldn't find any of those ingredients in the middle of, Tuscany. All those Chinese ingredients weren't available to me, but, we had batarga, we had, instead of Thai chilies, there were Italian pepperoncinis and chilies. So I was able to kind of create these substitutes that actually worked really beautifully. And so I felt really proud to be able to present that dish this week.
Definitely. And I think it's so cool to think about the way that constraints can lead to the kind of innovation that you just wouldn't be able to necessarily do if you had everything available to you at once.
Exactly. And that's, I think, the beauty of the competition, or, Top Chef in general, for me, has opened up my culinary brain, and it really, gets you to create things that you never thought you ever would.
Definitely. And I want to ask you about this show, Tasting Wild, that you do. Have you always been drawn to the outdoors?
I have. Yeah, I love nature. I love finding inspiration through, just literally walking through the Golden Gate Park or just anywhere that's outdoors. I think there's just so much beauty to it all. And so being able to do Tasting Wild was such in a way, a challenge, but also I was just excited to be a part of these adventures and to see what I would come up with at the end of each episode, because I had to create a dish based off of what we were foraging.
Definitely. If you could redo one of those experiences and bring some friends with you, which one would you want to do?
Oh, they were all so cool. I think the Big Island, that one was really incredible. Just being on top of a volcano, and also I was cooking on a black sand beach, and we had fish from a spear fisherman. So that one I thought was a really beautiful way to just sort of capture the essence of the island in my dish.
And your friends would also probably want an excuse to get to go with you.
And then we get to just hang.
Yeah. So now, do you like to cook outside?
I mean, I do. I've always enjoyed outdoor cooking on live fire. I think any chef loves an excuse to do that.
Definitely.
It challenges you in so many ways. And a lot of the show for Tasting Wild, I was cooking outdoors on live fire.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing a lot on Instagram lately. Maybe you know the name for this technique. I can only describe it as people that have been kind of trussing up vegetables and meat and then just hanging it over a fire.
Yeah.
Have you been noticing? I feel like this is a trend that I'm seeing.
I see it all over. I think, Francis Malman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of just and he's the coolest guy. You look at his Instagram and you're like, wow, I want to do that in the middle of, South America.
Yeah, just go to Argentina.
Exactly.
Have you done that kind of technique before?
More so camping, or my brother-in-law has one of those Brio fire pits at the house. And so, yeah, we'll connect a little spit on it, but I haven't done it to that magnitude that Francis does.
Yeah, I have not, but I feel like every time I see one of these clips, it just looks so peaceful. I want to be a vegetable swinging over the fire. I feel like that'd be a nice way to live.
That'd be awesome.
So you have all these different experiences in food TV. I'm curious what you think makes for good food television.
I mean, I feel like so much has been done, from Top Chef and competing to Is It Cake?
Oh.
There's such a range of food television out there. And I'm actually excited to see what's next, because I guess if I thought of that $1 million idea, then I'd be creating that show right now. But, it's exciting just to see that food TV has become what it is today.
Yeah, that it continues to expand. I think of when I was growing up, watching the cooking demos was probably the only kind of food TV that there was in some kind of way. And now there is It Real or Is It Cake, which is not even food TV. It's kind of sleight of hand magic.
Oh, absolutely. I'm how, is that cake? I don't know.
Yeah, actually the podcast mics in the studio are cake. We'll cut into them at the end. So if you wanted to forecast crystal ball a little bit, what is something that you'd like to see more of in the food TV world?
I personally love storytelling through food. I think yeah, again, there's competition cooking. There's shows like Is It Cake? But I would personally love to see more storytelling and like who are the people behind it and what is their story? What is their journey? Just for me, I've always wanted to like hang out in a kitchen with a bunch of grandmas from different countries and like learn from them. And so honestly, that would be a show I would try to create or pitch is there's so much, for me as a chef, there's so much nostalgia in a dish. And like, I think a lot of dishes are starting to be lost, at least in my own culture. I know that there's things that people my age don't know how to make, but like my grandma knows how, but like those recipes don't get passed down it's written on a random piece of paper and there's no measurements.
Yeah.
So I would love to just see, again, more storytelling through food.
Well, I would definitely watch the Melissa King Grandma show. Have you been to the Grandma restaurant on Staten Island?
I've heard about it and I need to go check it out. Have you been?
No, I also haven't been, but it's something that we keep on talking about on the show because I think a lot of people have admiration for the older generations and the recipes that they have. And I know personally, like whenever I think about getting older in the context of cooking is something I'm really excited about. Is like if I'm pretty good at making something now, 40 years from now, I'm going to be just as good as all of the other grandmas. So it's something that I'm interested in, but I haven't ventured over to Staten Island yet.
I mean, that's the way I was thinking about food is like I think of my own grandma and the matriarchs of my family. And like you look at kitchens and it is heavily male dominated or it's getting better. Mm-hmm. But there's some sort of beauty in like the passing of knowledge to each generation through a dish. And like you said, like, will it be as good, 40 years later or 20 years later? Cooking is all repetition and I believe it does get better with time.
Yeah, I think it has to. I think whenever someone I know isn't excited about getting older, I'm always like, but don't you want to be an amazing cook?
Yeah, exactly.
I do. So I have to know, what was it like appearing on Sesame Street? Because that's like a life goal of mine.
That was like the best day of my life.
Okay, tell me everything.
I had so much fun. Just first of all, it's Sesame Street. There's so much, again, nostalgia attached to that. And when I was on set, there was Cookie Monster as my sous chef and Elmo. And we were debuting a new Muppet named Ji-young, who is the first, Korean-American Muppet. And so that was just a special, I think, moment for me as a chef to be able to like, literally, I was like watching Sesame Street and learning English as a child and then flipping over to Julia Child. And I was, 5 years old. And now I'm at my age today and I'm able to actually be on Sesame Street. So it truly was a dream. And we were making Asian foods and we were able to sort of show a bit of, my culture and just to represent the Asian American community was really powerful for me.
Definitely. What were the dishes you were making?
We made dumplings and tteokbokki and just, all these we're just really trying to introduce children to the beauty of Asian foods.
I love that.
Yeah.
And this is maybe a weird question, but when you are around the Muppets and they have handlers, obviously, do you make eye contact with the Muppet or with the person?
When you're there, you don't even notice the handlers.
Really?
You are so immersed in staring at, the Elmo's eyes and like talking directly to them because they're just so in character. And again, like the second you hear their voice, it's like you're transported back to your childhood. And it's like, oh, there's Cookie Monster. And, we're just hanging out in the kitchen.
I'm like,
it was so cool
thinking about that. Yeah, it's like meeting a celebrity, but also an alien kind of at the same time.
I was freaking out the whole time.
If you could go back on Sesame Street and do another cooking demo, what would you do?
I would love to teach kids about noodles and rice and just kind of, cook again with Cookie Monster. I think he was the best sous chef. He ate all my food. He just devoured the entire table of dumplings that we had.
And they weren't even cookies.
They weren't cookies, but he was all about it. And so I love getting kids excited about food and in any way that I could share a bit of my knowledge and my background with them. I'm all for it. So
definitely. And on the flip side to Sesame Street, I know that you curated the 2022 Met Gala menu for adults alongside Anna Wintour. How did you approach that?
Yeah, it was a collaborative effort with Marcus Samuelsson and a couple other chefs. And so we each took a course. And it took a couple months to actually develop the dish that I ended up creating for the first course. And, Anna is very particular about what she wants, and I think that's a good thing. And so it was really helpful for us as chefs to be able to plug into, okay, we need to make something that represents the Met theme, but also represents a bit of ourselves as chefs, and also, can be plant-based. And so I found it to be almost like a Top Chef challenge.
I was about to say it's a similar constraint. So what was the final dish that you ended up with?
I made a hamachi crudo with a citrus broth. It had a Szechuan chili oil and a yuzu kosho olive tapenade.
That sounds so good.
A little bit of everything, bringing all the beautiful flavors of America all in one dish, but keeping it light and refreshing for the first course. And then the vegan option was compressed melon instead of the hamachi.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you got to go. How did you feel about getting all dressed up? Was it so exciting?
That part was wild. I didn't realize we'd also get to attend the Met Gala and the Met Ball. And so that was really a once in a lifetime experience that I truly will never forget. It was amazing people watching.
Yeah. Who did you see? Did you watch anyone eating your dish to see if they would like it?
Oh, I sat at the table, was watching everybody around me just to see okay, do they like this? Do they enjoy it? Are they having a good time? And yeah, there was a lot of great feedback all around.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone liked it. I guess I'm wondering if there was one celebrity that you were like, oh, I really want to know if Anne Hathaway is going to like this or something.
I was sitting at the Vogue table, so I was sitting kind of with Anna Wintour's team, and all of them, they just kept giving me all these great compliments and feedback about the dish. So
definitely.
It was cool.
So are you cooking at home at all these days?
I feel like I'm one of those chefs that does cook at home when I do get downtime. I love cooking for my friends and hosting dinner parties. I'm from San Francisco, and I know through the pandemic I was bread baking and had my sourdough starter and got pretty obsessed with that. So I'm always trying to cook at home as much as I can.
Winter is a big time for me for cooking at home, but I often find myself in what I feel like is a TV competition situation where I have one friend who's vegan and then one friend who can't eat chickpeas, which is what I was going to serve the vegan. And it's hard for me to figure it out. Do you have any suggestions for a very flexible, maybe winter group cooking moment?
For winter?
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot right now.
You're putting me on the spot
Sorry.
here. I come from San Francisco. All my friends are vegan or gluten-free and all these things. But I think a lot, a big spread of dips and charcuterie and then also trickling in all your veg. That's always just gives people options from that point on. Even, at the Seaport Food Lab, we created this Chinese-Italian charcuterie spread, and I mixed in a little bit of Asian pocky sticks and dried squid onto this beautiful salumi board that had a little bit of everything for everyone, and they could mix and match pending their diets. So that's always a good starting point.
Honestly, the tip of putting pocky on the charcuterie board to me is fantastic. I feel like you could wrap up a salami around one of the
Absolutely.
If you're feeling adventurous. Is that crazy to say?
No, that was the vision, was to take a little bit of prosciutto and wrap it around the chocolate pocky stick. And you have a little bit of that salty, sweet action going on.
It's like a little rose almost.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. Well, I'm curious if there's anything coming up over the next couple months for you that you're excited to be working on that you could share with us.
Yeah, so I'm a Chase Sapphire partner, and you'll catch me at Sundance. So I'll be passing out some food in the Chase Sapphire Lounge over there and curating a couple special bites.
Are you going to get to sneak away and watch some movies also?
I hope so. Yeah, that's always the plus.
Yeah.
Sundance. We'll have a few more activations throughout the year. I know for Pride, we're planning something pretty fun. Can't fully talk about it just yet, but
okay, we'll wait until June to find out.
Exactly.
That's so great. And to close today, I want to play a little rapid fire taste check with you. So I'll give you some categories and you can just tell me the first answer that pops into your head.
Okay, this is always stressful.
No, it's going to be fine. We can take a deep breath together. Okay, go to like bodega convenience store snack.
Fresh juice, to be honest.
Go to like Asian grocery store snack.
Asian grocery snack. Oh, kimbap. If I'm at like H-Mart.
Favorite cookbook?
I really love April Bloomfield's Girl and Her Pig.
Definitely.
It's a solid one.
Okay, favorite food TV show? That's not Top Chef.
I was about to say Top Chef.
Sorry.
No, I can't watch The Bear. It stresses me out.
I was going to ask about that actually, but I think that most of my food industry friends can't watch it.
I can't watch it. It truly triggers me. It brings back a lot of trauma and PTSD. I don't know how anybody watches it, but I'm sure it's a wonderful show.
I mean, it's a testament
but it stresses
to quality
me out.
that it's so stressful that you can't watch it.
Exactly. It's so realistic, you know, they've really done such a great job with like every detail from like the way he wears his apron and the brand of knives and his knife roll. It's so accurate.
Okay. So you've seen enough to know that it's too accurate for you.
Yes.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a different food TV show that you want to shout out?
I honestly don't watch too much food TV.
It's okay. We can say Top Chef.
Yeah, I'm going to say Top Chef.
I'll be nice. Yeah. Okay. Favorite Bay Area restaurant?
I love Rentaro. I just have such a great meal when I'm there.
Do you have a go-to order?
I always order the sashimi. I order the carbonara, the udon carbonara, and all the yakitori sticks.
Okay, most underrated piece of kitchen equipment.
Underrated. A microplane. I love a microplane.
Me too.
Yeah.
Most overrated ingredient to use on a competition show.
On a competition show?
Yeah.
I was going to say foie gras but I guess that's not always on a competition show. But just generally, foie gras I feel is like so overrated.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite thing you ever made on Top Chef?
The Hong Kong milk tea tiramisu is a pretty solid one.
That sounds so good right now. Okay, dream TV show, food or otherwise, to appear on.
I'm going to say The Bear. As much as I talked about it, but it'd be kind of fun to be on there and be like the chef that's like screaming at everyone.
Yeah.
Even though I'm the nice person, you know, in real life, but it'd be fun to just play a completely different character.
I'm going to manifest this for you because we've had a couple members of The Bear on the podcast. So maybe they're listening and they want to cast
if you're
you.
listening, cast me for The Bear. That'd be great.
Okay.
I want to be like a mean person, you know?
You want to be mean?
Yeah. I want to be like this screaming Gordon Ramsay chef.
Okay.
I don't know if they have a character like that, but
I mean, I think they're
they do.
They're trying to like move away from it on the show. It's like a healthier workplace, but maybe you're like the rival restaurant across the street.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I want.
Okay, and to close, a fictional food scene, like from a movie or a book that you wish you could eat.
I feel like the movie Julia and Julia, just like everything in there looks so good. And I was like, I just want to eat like everything in that film.
Me too. Shout out to their food stylist.
Or Willy Wonka.
The chocolate river.
Like the old school Willy Wonka. Yeah, the chocolate river and eating like the little candied flowers and that little wonderland that they had. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, Melissa, this was so great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for being here. We're recording live at Red Eye Grill. We're a few months before you are publishing your debut cookbook. And I just have to say, you're in New York for the very first time. What are you doing?
I mean, just like running around like I'm in a movie, you know? It's this cultural landscape that I've watched for years from afar, and it's pretty exciting. I live deep in the depths of Dorset countryside, so it's a pretty big shift. And I love the skylines, the buzz, the people, and the food has been incredible.
Like, straight talk, you live in Dorset, which is kind of, it's not the Cotswolds. It's not like just like a couple minutes out of London. It's like out there. I'm going to say it's like kind of like Iowa, kind of like rural Oregon, because you're right on the ocean. And you work out there. Your farm it's a working farm. You aren't a gentleman farmer. You're not just a chef with a weekend habit. You love to cook what you grow. So please introduce our listeners and here today a little bit about your kind of point of view as a chef and a farmer out in Dorset.
Yeah, so Dorset's a really interesting English county. It's, as you said, like far from London, but it's very rural. It's an old part of the countryside where the kind of people there who are there have been there for generations. So you've got like willow weavers, basket workers, hedge layers, potters, it's that kind of part of the countryside. And it is just a patchwork of beautiful, beautiful farms. It's very steep. It's very lush and fertile. It rains a lot. And it is like an electric green. We live on quite a special farm where the lady who lived there before us, she really believed in nature. And in a time where the world has become more and more industrial and farming has intensified, she really refused that. So where my neighbor has, his hedges are cut clean and the fields are like immaculate right up to them, and the cows live in the barns. We live on a farm where the fields are full of wildflowers. The woodland is absolutely stunning and like humming with birds. The hedges are not, trim things. They're like 30 meters wide and collapsing on themselves.
It's like what we think about when we think about the English countryside.
Yeah.
We hear like the Led Zeppelin songs and we think about that, yeah.
It's like Lord of the Rings meets The Good Life. And we live in this kind of beautiful secret little valley, and the farm is nestled into this little nook, like a little teardrop bowl.
We'll talk about your reels and your Instagram and your TikTok, how seafood plays such a big role in your content. But as a chef, you worked at Noble Rod and you were working the line and you decided you wanted to move out to Dorset. As a chef, what are you actually pulling from the earth out there? What are you cooking with?
I mean, you name it, I grow it. It's that kind of thing. The main source of the farm is sheep. So I have 100 sheep. The sheep are this wild Scottish breed from the Hebrides, which is the very north of Scotland. So these islands, like way out in the ocean. We actually keep them to what's called hogget, which is where you let lamb live a much longer life and not eat it as a baby. You eat it as an older animal. So I really believe in like long lives for animals. Chickens, I go out every morning and grab a warm egg from the coop for my breakfast every day. You crack it into the pan to poach it, and it literally doesn't change shape from the shell that it was in. And then I've got the goats who climb everyone's cars and eat all the buttons off my clothes and all my shoelaces. And they're a lovely symbol of, for me, the reason I keep them is because they really show that relationship you can have with an animal. For me, it's always been about not telling people about animal welfare, but just showing that relationship.
You're not like one of those influencers. Like, you're not one of those guys. Like, you are so thoughtful, and the way you think about your very spiritual, just getting to know you and reading your book. But like, you pop on Instagram, people know who you are in both around the world in the United States. So like, what drew you to this platform in the first place? And do you even like doing it? I feel like you're almost like hesitant to do it sometimes, but that makes it so good and authentic. That's why we love it.
That's very kind of you to say. Yeah. So I was working in restaurants and made this huge leap of faith to move to the countryside. And it, started by buying these pigs. And I think the lessons I was learning and the journey that I was on, all this stuff I was being taught by nature and these animals just felt so poignant and so special. And I felt like, how do we not all know the brains behind these animals and the sensitivity and the characters? It's so hidden behind this veil. And it was really a want to just share that relationship and share the journey, not with an ambition of influencing and all this stuff. It was more just telling a story. I was also on my own in the countryside.
Oh, you were? You were going solo during the pandemic?
Yeah, just me and my dog and my pigs and the goats and all that. So it was, when you've got those people to talk to and you've got something to share, it just gave a real, a lovely purpose to it. And I do enjoy it. That it can be there's some aspects of Instagram that can be quite soul destroying, and I'm not a natural click.
I haven't even seen your phone this whole trip. Have you even taken a photo?
I have taken photos, but I've posted nothing. Basically,
and I really do love that about you. You're truly about the farming and about being a chef. But let me ask you about just making the content work. I mean, you do a lot of cooking demo in your greenhouse, and you have a lot of outdoor. I'd like to get a sense about how you think about your recipes and how they live on Instagram and how they live on TikTok. You really have a great sense with making recipes that actually people want to make. What is your purpose with your recipe development?
So the book is, for me, like the seasons are what's most important. So I really believe, like, why are we flying ingredients from across the world when we grow such great things at home? You know, why do we need to eat asparagus in the middle of winter when it's so nice waiting for it in spring? And it tastes way better than the stuff that's been flown for weeks. You know, it just doesn't make sense. So one of my big purposes of the recipes on Instagram is trying to encourage people to eat seasonally and show them just how delicious veg or whatever it is can be if you play with it and are clever. I think a good thing, you know, I spent some time in restaurants and really learned about seasoning and playing with flavors, but ultimately left quite early. Yeah. So I still really just feel like a home cook, and the food that I make is just the food that I like to eat. You know, I'm out working with the animals in the wind and the rain, and I come in to make a beautiful stew. You know, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's super. It feels like you're not going out and buying like ring lights and stuff. It's all natural. It feels super real. And about the food, the culinary.
That's why I cook in the greenhouse. Everyone's always asking.
Because it's sun-soaked.
Just because it's light.
Yeah, it's sun-soaked. Now, but your thread in the book, and you'll see when you pick up the book and when it's out, it has an Italian thread. I mean, there's frittata, there's scallops with andouille butter, there's lots of pastas. So I have to draw the comparison between you and Jamie Oliver, because Jamie, you know, came from a culture of Italy. Like that was his heart and his root. I'm only drawing that comparison because of the cuisine, but you clearly love Italian cooking. Why?
I mean, I think just food is part of their soul, and I love that so much. I love the way Europeans just live for sitting around the table with their family. I love that that's how they socialize. Their food is so simple. You know, you one of my favorite things is when you're taking the train through Italy, every single house that you go past has tomatoes growing in the garden. You know, you can imagine them taking a bite and they spit out a seed and it just turns into a plant. I love their relationship to food and how, you know, how we were talking the other night about, you know, the different countries that the book's going to, and Angeli said it would be so fun for it to go to Italy, but there's just no way. They don't need me to tell them how to cook.
But there is a level of ingenuity with the recipe development, and you know how to pare it down. And is that from your time at Noble Rot and your time just cooking professionally? Because when you look at the gram, when you're seeing your actual process, it's very simple. The cooking is very simple.
Well, we were talking the other day about St. John, which is the kind of epitome of...
St. John. Has anyone been to St. John in London? Yeah, raise their hands. No. Yeah, look at that. We got the Londoners have been there. Truly the greatest experience.
Anthony Bourdain's favorite restaurant. Yeah. And he kind of, I think he put British food on the map. I call him the godfather of British cuisine. Yeah. And he is all about a few good things on the plate. And the restaurant that I worked at, all the chefs had come from St. John. So I very much picked up that ethos. You know, you just need 3 good things. And also for people cooking at home, there's nothing worse than an ingredients list that's as long as the page.
It's the worst. It's the worst. We try to avoid it and put book publishing.
So when I was, you know, writing these recipes, I'd always think like, what really needs to be there? What makes that dish, and what is just frazzle on top?
Have you traveled through Italy? Have you done that?
Yeah,
thing?
Lots. Yeah. So never been to America. It's quite a long way, but you know, in England, like Europe is a stone's throw. So I've spent a lot of time in Italy, Spain, Greece. And that really influences my cooking. Yeah.
What about Jamie? Do you guys like link up? Like, have you?
We've chatted, yeah? But I've never met him. Yeah, he's obviously a hero, and he inspired me a lot back in the day. His early cookbook.
I mean, coming to America and with this book and introducing yourself to an American audience more, it seems like it's the trajectory could be similar. And do you want to do TV here? Do you have ambitions for that?
Yeah, big time. I feel like I've got something that I want to say and that I want to show. I feel like, you know, and New York's quite a funny place in that, you know, you're so removed from the natural world, right?
It feels like that living here, right? It's so true. Well said.
You know, people. I posted that I was here and with the like beautiful video of the skyline and you know, an American flag fluttering in the distance. Like a lot of messages being like, this is so bizarre. You know, you're like the epitome of the countryside and, you know, what are you doing kind of vibe.
You're betraying your fans. What are you doing in an urban center?
But with what's happening to the world and the food system, you know, I think it's really important that we reconnect and we become part of the seasons again and the natural flow, and we, you know, think about where our food comes from. And I think farming and cooking with ingredients that you've grown and kind of just showing that journey, not preaching about it, but just showing the things that have gone wrong, the joys, the things that have gone right is a really great way of doing that.
It's terrific editorially. It's just such the Four Seasons concept really works well. And it's a beautiful book. And not just saying that, truly. So there's an epic tarragon roast chicken. When you put epic in front of a name on a recipe, it says something.
Dude, that dish is so good. I mean, for me, like a roast chicken is the epitome of the perfect Sunday lunch, which is a big cultural thing in England. You sit down and you have Sunday lunch. And it is a roast chicken that just, it doesn't feel, you know, like tarragon and chicken is one of the world's best combinations. And this is cream, mustard, tarragon poured over a roasting chicken. And it is wild how good it is. It is epic.
I love it. So when you're thinking about buying a chicken, I mean, we can't always kill our own chickens, Julius. We can't always kill our own chicken. So what's a tip to buying the right chicken?
My philosophy is I don't think there's anything wrong with eating meat. But I think the meat that you eat is really important. I believe if we all eat a bit less with the money that we save, we buy better when we do. And the animals win because they're living better, longer lives. The farmers win because they're looking after animals in a nicer way. Nature wins because it's more in keeping with the, you know, holistic way of the world. When I go for a chicken, it's a damn good one, and eat every single bit, make a stock from the bones, and enjoy it to its fullest.
I cannot agree more. I think eating less and better is key.
And that recipe is a good place to start.
Yeah, epic. Okay, so tartare, an apricot tartare. I feel we all need a little more tartare in our lives. So but tell us a little bit about how you make a tartare.
So a tarte tatin is really cool because you've made like quiches and tarts, I think, before, and there's the whole faff of blind baking. You know, you've got to get the beans out, the paper, you roast it slow, you know, it's just, you cook it upside down. You just fry off some fruit or onions are really good in tarte tatin. Chicory, endive.
You can go savory, truly, absolutely.
You can put a bit of cheese in your pastry, you can do all sorts of clever things, but you cook off whatever's the inside of the tart, and then the pastry goes on top, and you just blast it in the oven. And have you what, you know, Instagram loves a good apple tarte tatin video.
Yes,
but it's a bit of a faff, you know, this slow cooking of the apples, and it's very chefy. So what I love about apricots is that, you know, there's none of that faff. They're the best fruit to cook. You know, I don't really love them raw. They're quite like papery and funny in the mouth, but when you cook them, they have this beautiful acidity that comes through, and, you know, with some really good like dark brown sugar, it's just such a good fruit to cook with. There's a lot of apricot recipes in the book, including a upside down sponge. What's cool about these upside down things is obviously you flip them out, and then all those juices just leach into your sponge or your pastry or whatever.
Looks great when you flip it and you the photo, right?
It's the aha moment.
I'm going to close by asking you about your grandmother taught you to cook and lived in the countryside. Let's hear a little bit about what your grandmother taught you, a couple tenets or tips.
So a lovely thing I like to always talk about with my granny is that when she died, she left me her notebooks from the kitchen. And on every single page, there was a rectangle for the table. And she wrote down, since the 60s through till when she died, you know, 30 years of cooking, where everyone sat when she hosted a dinner party, what she cooked, what it cost. Back then it was in shillings and, you know, this old currency that, and, you know, we're talking crazy pudding. She'd have a mousse, a trifle, a tart, a cake for pudding. She'd write down, you know, if Mrs. Tisbury was wearing too short a dress or flirted with her husband. And it's this beautiful way of like looking back how food has evolved, but also that ethos towards food where she was just so proud and cared about it. And I think she just taught me to, you know, the best thing about food is the sharing of it with people, you know, bringing people together, sitting down, the enjoying of it. And I think that's what I took away from her. I was in awe watching her cook, and she was incredible at cooking, but really it was her ability to like bring the family together that I really loved. She was obsessed with offal. So
before it was trendy.
Well before it was trendy, yes. And, as a 6-year-old, you'd be sitting at the table and you go, please, 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 please. And a tongue would be put in front of you or a plate of livers. And she was the kind of old school type where it was, you are not leaving until that plate is clean. And me and my poor brothers would be there just like for hours.
Oh my
She'd just
gosh.
be doing the crossword, kind of smiling at us.
She would torment you.
And I was quite good at just straight down the hatch, but my stubborn brothers would be, for days.
Let's go back to that journal, because to me, that really struck me when you told me that story before. Like journaling all of your meals, but also like conversation points, what people were wearing.
It's so cool,
it's
right?
Truly what I would love to have done myself. And going forward, it would be great to do that. It's really smart.
Yeah, I agree. And she'd have her travels in there too. So you could see when she'd been to Syria, Iran, all these places that not many of us would dare to go to now. And she'd bring back, in a time where, cooking was quite simple, but she was obsessed with spices. Her food in Morocco, that you have this dish called foul madame, which is like baked beans in the morning. And when she came back from Morocco, we ate that for months.
That's really
yeah.
And she's no longer with us, right?
No, sadly not. Sadly not.
Very
I've got a lovely memento to
She's
her.
very proud of you, Julius.
Yeah.
Well, to end this conversation on This Is Taste, we ask guests about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little fast, fierce taste check.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your favorite London restaurant right now?
Kiln, which is this fire-cooked, very spicy Thai food that I just it's cheap, like affordable. The cooks are right there with these flaming pots. It's all awesome. I love it.
The best dessert?
Tiramisu every time.
Every time?
Every time.
Okay, so ladyfingers?
Yeah, lady's fingers soaked in lots of brandy and strong espresso with a very light layer of mascarpone whipped with eggs and masala wine, which is like sweet and spiced. And you keep doing the layers with cocoa powder in between and leave it in the fridge overnight. And it's
like
just
an icebox cake at the best.
Awesome.
The best bread?
I think focaccia. Yeah. Focaccia, lots and lots of rosemary, not on before it goes in the oven, but when it comes out. And you let the lasting heat gently perfume the rosemary rather than burn it in the oven.
You got to get yourself the Superiority Burger downtown. Their focaccia, when they have it on the menu, oh man.
Oh, really?
Go there, please.
Okay.
As a shout. All right. Your favorite cookbook of all time? Just like I'm saying that with a straight face.
I love, in fact, it's an author I don't think you'll know. So he's called Rowley Lee. And he's got a cookbook called A Messy Business. And it is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So what's The Messy Business? Like, can you summarize it?
He's like a legendary old school English chef, kind of like Fergus Henderson of St. John. I think he used to cook at the Conran shop, which is this amazing architectural shop in London. And he's just old school English food, and it's a collection of all of his newspaper articles over the years, but just shot so beautifully. And every recipe has a essay on the page before. And, we're talking like Mirabelle custard tarts, and it's just such good cooking. It's so great.
Your favorite season?
Spring.
Okay.
Yeah. So like summer's nice and you get to enjoy, the sun and the heat and stuff. But spring for me on the farm is when the animals are giving birth, when I'm planting my seeds, in the soil, and the growing begins, the leaves come out, the birds are so loud, the flowers are erupting, the grass.
It blows up overnight. There's like a day
in
in the spring that it just blows up.
Yeah. And when the Dorset winter is 6 months of hell.
We never came back to seafood. What do you catch off the coast?
So we live it's a 15-minute drive. So if the weather's nice in the evening and I've had a long day, we just gun it to the coast where there's this pub on the beach, and you go grab a takeaway pint, walk down to the rocks, and we'll fish for mackerel, which is the best fish there is. When it's not fresh, it's awful, but when it's fresh, it blows your mind. And sea bass, but if we catch mackerel, you just grab some driftwood off the beach and some seaweed, start a fire, and you just fillet it on the sand and cook it and whack it in a bap.
You ever do sashimi raw?
Yeah. And it's what a peaceful pastime. You can't really beat it.
This is a tough one. Your favorite?
In fact, wait. Let me tell you one more thing about the mackerel fishing. I was down the other day. I was, when the mackerel are in, you fish with 5 hooks on your line, and you can literally cast, pull in 5, cast, pull in 5. And there was this fisherman next to me, catching so many mackerel. I said, what are you going to do with all these mackerel? He said, I don't eat it. I don't eat it. I was like, bloody hell, you've got 50 mackerel on the beach, Marnie. And he goes, no, it's for the dog. And he's a farmer just trying to feed his sheepdog. And the sheepdog's there on the coast just zipping up and down because what the mackerel are there for is whitebait. And they chase the whitebait onto the shore who just gets stuck on the rocks. And the sheepdog's just eating whitebait.
He doesn't know. You need to bring the farmer some sashimi.
Yeah, I know.
Some raw mackerel. It's brilliant. Okay, so this is hard. Your favorite vegetable?
I've really fallen in love with Romanesco broccoli recently. You know that broccoli that does the crazy spiraling pattern? I never really appreciated it before, but if you boil it and chuck it in a pan with, some slow cooked onion, anchovy, rosemary, lemon, toss it together, it begins to break a little bit. And you can toss that through pasta, have it with a steak. It's just got, it's cauliflower, but with that broccoli flavor. And I love the texture. It's so good.
Last one, your favorite sandwich?
Leftover roast chicken, basil, mayo, avo. I hate sandwiches in bread that's too tough and you take a bite and it just spills everywhere. I like fluffy white bread.
What kind of mayonnaise?
Oh, homemade olive oil mayo with a bit of garlic and lemon.
Julius, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
This is Taste is hosted by Matt Rodbard and me, Eliza Abarbanel. The show is produced by Shalia Harris and Pat Stango and edited by Clayton Gumbert. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter for updates on all cool things happening.